Do you want to become a talk show host? Do you have a great idea? Passionate World Talk Radio is currently looking for podcast hosts for our Internet Talk radio station. Please email us at pwrnetworkllc@gmail.com with your name, email address, cell phone number, and podcast topic. In return, you will receive a 3-minute intro on air to a live audience about your podcast. Remember, just email us your name, email address, and your podcast topic, and in return, you will receive a free 3-minute intro on the air. How cool is that? Welcome to Passionate World Talk Radio. Educate, enlighten, entertain.
Hello, everybody. This is Betsy Wurzel, host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate World Talk Radio Network, where we educate, enlighten, and entertain. The opinions of the guests may not represent those of the host or the station. I want to thank Lillian Caldwell, CEO of Passionate World Talk Radio Network, and Jeannie White, station manager, who produces the show and writes the blog. Please read the blog because it's going to have information about my special guest. Folks, you know, if you've been listening to Chatting with Betsy, you know that I believe in blowing off the lid on what people call taboo subjects. But talking about grieving, death, and dying is not taboo, and it shouldn't be considered taboo. It is part of the circle of life. And I have with me today a phenomenal person who wrote this book, and I'm telling you, everyone should get it. I received it yesterday. I'll be honest, I only read a couple of chapters, but I, kind of breezed through. This book should be in every place of worship. Every hospice should have this book. It should be in doctors' training, nurses' training. That's how strongly I love this book. And really, everybody should buy this book to be prepared, to know how to handle when someone is dying. And yes, we need to talk about it. And I don't care if I sound redundant because I'm going to keep talking about it. Well, I have with me today Linda BRYCE, who wrote The Courage to Care, Being Fully Present with the Dying. Linda BRYCE is an author, educator, end-of-life doula, and transition coach, singer, and songwriter. Phenomenal woman. I want to hug her, but I can't because she's in Massachusetts. She sings to the dying. How awesome is that? So I want to welcome Linda BRYCE to Chatting with Betsy. Welcome, Linda.
Thank you so much, Betsy, for that phenomenal introduction. I am humbled and flabbergasted at the same time.
Oh, you're welcome. I can't help it, but I'm so passionate about certain subjects, and grief and grieving, dying, being prepared is a passion since my husband passed away. And, when, as you know, Linda, when someone you love dies, it changes you.
Yes.
It just does. And you see dying in a whole different light. I'm going to ask you what I ask every author, and that is, why did you write the book? And what would you like the reader to take away from your book?
So you mentioned your husband dying and how it transforms us.
Right.
It was the death of my husband, and then an aunt, and then an ad for a new choir to sing for those at the thresholds of life that brought me back to the bedsides of the dying. And after sitting at hundreds of bedsides as a singer, as a hospice worker, as a vigil sitter, when people were much, much closer to dying. After witnessing all that, and then all the reading I had done over 5 years, this was my passion. I had to talk about this. I had to write, because what I saw were all of these individuals who were alone, who were lonely, who were isolated, who were living out their last days. And you and I, your listeners, I get very passionate. This is my passion at this stage in my life, is to encourage, to show each person how in their own way they can make, and I'm starting to get emotional here.
That's
because
okay.
I'm so passionate about this. Wow.
I understand that. I get it, Linda. We'll both be crying. I'll tell you that. Just tell you that. We laugh, we cry. I'm chatting with Betsy. This is real life, folks. It's real.
Yes.
It's real life.
That they can make some dying more peaceful and easier. Yeah.
Yes.
The epigraph to the book is, "Come and sit by my side. Do not hasten to bid me adieu." And that really sums it up for me. Come. This is what I want people. I want to encourage each of us to find ways that we can come to a bedside. It may be a family member. It may be a neighbor. It may be someone from your spiritual community. It may be someone in a facility who's a stranger but who's going to become a friend to you, or you to them. Come and sit by my side. As humans, we cherish physical, emotional, and spiritual connection. If you read literature out there, so many individuals who are ill, okay, so let's hit this. Oh, this is chatting, so I'm getting off of this a little bit, but like you called this, and I even said this in a call to someone I was chatting with, someone else, just saying, death is one of the last taboos. We still, even after the pandemic, if you read some of the literature post-pandemic, sort of coming out the other end, with medical providers and psychologists and whomever thinking, okay, now that we had all this death in front of us, maybe we're finally going to look at how we do medical care in this country, how we help or don't help individuals and families who have dying members. And yet we've kind of passed that and are going back into our rabbit holes and not looking at dying.
So true.
Yeah.
That's so true. Folks, I just want to tell the audience this, Linda. I told Linda prior to recording, I think this book is so phenomenal that Linda BRYCE should be doing webinars, virtual, to hospitals, to places of worship. This is a universal book. I just want everyone to know that. You don't have to be a certain faith to read it. It's universal. We all die. And people really need to be trained in how to be with a dying person, because a lot of times we're afraid. We're afraid to go visit them. We face our own mortality. I regret not visiting one of my mom's friends when she was dying. She was a very lovely lady. And I was young. I was in my early 20s. And I didn't want to see this woman dying. And that's why I didn't go visit her. I should have. But I didn't want to see her that way, which I know is a terrible thing to say, but I've learned since then. You need to go see people if you can. With COVID now it's totally different. But, to say your goodbyes, because you'll regret it.
Or even to call, even if you can't be there, to call, to write a letter, to in some way communicate. For me, I think cards and letters are great, and I prefer hearing somebody's voice. That's a more intimate, direct connection. And you can go back and forth. You don't have that opportunity. And yet, an advantage of having something in writing is that the recipient can read it and reread it and reread it. And remember you and remember the words and be reassured that of your love, of your connection, of how worthwhile their life was, or what you remember about them and your connection to each other.
Yes, I totally agree. I have to ask you this, Linda, because I know you sing at the bedside.
Yes.
Do you? I'm just so curious about this. Do you sing songs that the person they can request, or do you have like your own songs that you sing to people, or
right.
is it both?
Right. So it is Bedside Singing that brought me back to the bedside. There are groups around the country. They're called threshold choirs. They're called hospice choirs. They're called bedside singers. My book gives you information introducing you to these types of groups and the music we sing. I'm the leader of a local, what's called the Berkshire Threshold Choir, which is affiliated with a national group. And there are more than 200 choirs in the U.S. affiliated with that national group. So we have songs. We have our own body of songs that were written by other threshold singers. And we sing, that's our usual repertoire at the bedside. It's all a cappella. Yes, we say choirs, but at the bedside there's only 2 of us, maybe 3, so that we can do harmony. Sing in unison and sing in harmony. It's music that is unfamiliar intentionally and non-denominational, very consoling, loving, soothing. When you read the stories in my book and in the chapter that's strictly about music, you can see how this kind of music relaxes people, soothes their anxiety. We can see, their physical response to the music. Having said that, people may be dying like years down the road. Just because they've been given a life-limiting diagnosis doesn't mean they're on their deathbed,
Right.
And so we sing all kinds of music interspersed with ours. We might sing generational music. You Are My Sunshine, Blue Skies, What a Wonderful World. Amazing Grace, Shalom. There are all kinds of other types of music that we will also sing. And when the individual is still alert, they sing along, and if they aren't singing along, maybe they're still alert but not really communicating much anymore. You'll see a hand that starts moving, or a head that begins to bob, or a toe that begins to tap. Music really moves us on this deep interior level. Music has been called medicine. It has so many health benefits throughout our life, living and as we're dying.
Yes.
And I ask your listeners, have you started making your playlist? I have.
Absolutely. That's right, Linda. I love that. Yes. I just love that. You know what? This is what Chatting with Betsy is about, resources, telling my audience about resources I didn't know about. I didn't know about singing choirs at the bedside. I had never heard of it until I met you, Linda.
Oh, okay. And
never heard of it.
Oh, we need to keep talking about this, because just because, for example, this one national group has been around for 20 years, they might be known more widely in their part of the country, which is on the West Coast, because they're in California, and because it depends on local individuals in different parts of the U.S. or around the world. There are also affiliated choirs in Canada and Australia and wherever else if you go on their website. Oh, yes. But we need to keep talking about this. Absolutely.
Yes.
Just because I know about it, for example, doesn't mean everybody else knows about it.
That's true. That's so true. This is, I'm so blessed and doing this show of learning about resources that I wish I knew when my husband was alive. And this is my way of paying it forward and to honor my husband's memory. I would have called up about a choir and, had looked into this had I had known. How is that going now? I guess they can't do it now with COVID unless you do it on FaceTime.
Right. So you're right that we've had to become incredibly inventive, and it's been easier in choirs that have professional musicians who either themselves or have access to professional, like recording equipment and so forth. That's not the case for us here in Western Massachusetts. So some choirs have been able to record individually singing a song and singing their part then to the song, and then they use this musical technology to put that together into one. In other places where there is staff in a residential facility, or there's a caregiver in the home who has, like you said, either a smartphone that you can do FaceTime on, or an iPad, or a computer through Zoom, something like that, then the choir can coordinate with the staff member or with the caregiver in the home to be on at the same time and sing that way. Some choirs have been doing what are called song baths. So, and in fact, for your New Jersey people, because you're in Jersey, and Betsy knows I'm a Jersey girl. Even though I know, even though I don't live there anymore, but I'm actually coming back next week to visit a long time friend, Lillian, who's 93 in Springfield. But you guys have one threshold choir, I believe they're called Garden State Threshold Choir, and every week on a Tuesday, and maybe I can give this information to Betsy later and she can let you guys know, because I don't have it right in front of me. But they have what's called a song bath. So anybody can come on. It's a Zoom thing, and you just sit there and sit back and relax. You don't need to have your video on if you don't want it. Just sit and let the healing melodies wash over you. Just take those relaxing vibrations over you, and they sing to you. And it's half an hour, I believe. and it's every Tuesday. So that's what they've gone to. Yeah.
That's very nice to know. Thank you for that information. I saw in flipping through your book yesterday, Linda, and it touched my heart, and it caught my eye, but I can't remember exactly what it said, about looking at the whole person, looking in their eyes. I love that.
Yes. So, yeah, as you said earlier, there's a lot of, we make this about us instead of as someone I interviewed, and I share part of his story in the book. He comments, we make this about us. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. I'm going to feel uncomfortable. Rather than making about the other person, how are they feeling? What are they going through? What are they feeling that all of a sudden their so-called friends don't check in anymore? Or it's a really long time now before they're checking in. So it's like going back to asking yourself, what was your relationship with this person before? They're not just this illness. See all of them, all of who they are.
Yes, that's so true.
And what they've done in their life, and the relationship you've had, and the memories you've shared, and the experiences you've had together. And in those cases, and maybe this is what you're referring to, Betsy, I have little exercises throughout the book, including the last chapter is all about exercises for you to consider this, that, and the other in terms of getting ready to visit someone, to make contact with someone. If someone, I'll put it this way, if you are uncomfortable with how this person now physically looks, that you can look in their eyes. Look in their eyes and see the glorious person.
Yes.
They still are.
Yes. 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 And I feel, Linda, that if their eyes are closed, like in Matt's case, he couldn't open his eyes, to still talk to them.
Absolutely.
Of course, I was, allowed to, thankfully, Matt died before COVID, and I was able to be there to touch him, to hold him. And but as a stranger, if you're, just like a friend, or you're visiting from, church or wherever you worship, just go in and talk to the person. Even if their eyes are closed, they hear you. Hearing is the last sense to go. They hear you.
That's right.
And and if they know you, they will recognize your voice. That's what gave me such hope, Linda. When my husband was dying, I had severe laryngitis at the time. I was thinking, Matt, it's me. I have laryngitis. Just to talk. They know your voice. Don't think they don't hear you. They hear you, and they know your voice. It's a heart-to-heart connection. That's what it is, folks.
Yeah.
Especially if it's your spouse or, your mom or, someone close to you. Yes. Linda, I could talk to you for an hour.
I know.
You have to come back.
We've gone through this time. What I would ask your listeners to do is to put aside your hesitancy, and to think about the other person first. Betsy mentioned regrets. One of the most often, after someone died, most often what haunts people, if you will, is their regrets. That I didn't say what I needed to say, that I didn't go to the bedside, that I didn't make the call. Just do it. You know, like Nike, just do it. Instead of going over it and over it in your mind, just pick up the phone and just connect, or however you need to connect. And you know, connection is energetic. When we pray, we're not necessarily with someone, are we? But we are believing and intending that our compassionate, loving, healing intentions and energies are reaching out and will touch that person. And they do. They do.
Yes, they do. Linda, I loved having you on, Chatting with Betsy. I want to thank you for coming on. I want to thank you for writing this necessary book. It is phenomenal, folks. You know what? When I'm passionate,
yes, the courage to care, being fully
the courage
present
to care.
Yeah.
Where can people buy this book, Linda?
Well, it's certainly available on Amazon in ebook and paperback. You can also, I believe I was told recently that you might now begin to be able to get it through your local bookstores. They'd have to order it, but I think it's making its way through that distribution system. But you could get it immediately through ebook or paperback on Amazon.
Okay. And do you have any social or media, contact information where if someone wants to get in touch with you about the book?
Sure. Or even other writings I do, blogs, and if you want to go to my website, www.thecouragetocare, all one word, thecouragetocare.com. I even offer a free 5 trusted ways to help ease someone's dying, and it's a wonderful, I think, introduction to all of this, and not just for someone who's on their deathbed, that's for sure. So I'd encourage you to do that. I'm also on LinkedIn and Instagram now, thanks to my daughter Elizabeth, and on Facebook. So, and I post pretty regularly to all of those.
Great. Oh, thank you so much, folks. I'm going to say it again. You need to buy this book, The Courage to Care, Being Fully Present with the Dying. It is an awesome, phenomenal book that I can't rave enough about. I want to have Linda on again in the fall if I read this book, because we need to talk about how we are present with the dying. How do we handle visiting somebody who's dying? You want to know that? Get the book. There are exercises in this book. Really, every person should be buying this book. That's really, when I feel strongly about something, I can't shut up about it. That's just how I am. I make no apologies. And being that I just went through and I'm still going through the grieving process, this book, I wish I, knew about this. I wish I had it out last year, 2 years ago, Linda.
Well, that takes us in a whole different direction, and I know we're running out of time. But as other people have said, even if someone close to you has already passed, there are other sections in this book which are so healing, because it talks about true stories, after-death communication and experiences, and so forth. And that's something else that I felt really strongly that I was being asked to communicate to others.
That's all. We'll have to talk about that the next time you come on, Linda.
Okay.
Definitely. Well, I want to thank you for coming on, Linda BRYCE. Folks, thank you for listening. Please share this podcast to help other people This is what Chatting with Betsy is about, is helping other people. If you missed any of this podcast, you could hear it on your favorite podcast outlet. Just to name a couple, I'm on Speaker and Spotify, Google. And share it with your friends, because everyone is going to die. And that's just a fact of life. Don't be afraid of the process. Buy this book. Learn about how to handle it and the exercises. I'm going to have Linda back. Hopefully it'll come back, Linda. I really need to have Linda back because there's so much more to discuss. And, you know, we need to have open dialogue about death and dying and grieving. And let's stop putting a lid over it and take the lid off and talk about it, because that's just how I feel about it. Mm-hmm.
There's nothing to fear. There's nothing to fear. It's a normal, sacred end of life, all of life.
Yes, absolutely. And I just, thank you again, Linda. Thanks, folks, for listening. This is Betsy Wurzel. Oh, you're welcome. This is Betsy Wurzel, host of Chatting with Betsy, a passionate World Talk Radio Network. Until we chat again, be kind, everybody. Bye-bye.
Do you want to become a talk show host? Do you have a great idea? Passionate World Talk Radio is currently looking for podcast hosts for our Internet Talk radio station. Please email us at pwrnetworkllc@gmail.com with your name, email address, cell phone number, and podcast topic. In return, you will receive a 3-minute intro on air to a live audience about your podcast. Remember, just email us your name, email address, and your podcast topic, and in return, you will receive a free 3-minute intro on the air. How cool is that? Thank you for listening to Passionate World Talk Radio. You can listen to this program all over again by going over to https://passionateworldtalkradio.com. You can also hear it on Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Alexa, AMFM247.com every Tuesday evening between 8 and 9 p.m. YouTube, Facebook Live, LinkedIn, and all the other podcast directories one can find on the Internet.